Greetings and salutations, Greek students. I want to continue our introduction to the aorist tense by looking at some examples of aorist tense verbs in sentences. So these are from Clayton Croy's Primary Biblical Greek. I'm looking here at chapter 13, the practice and review. I want to look first at sentence number 2. Ekenoi hoi hamartoloi epistrepsan pras ton kurion kai nun hetoi maze en uranois tapan autois. So as always, we're going to break the sentence up into its constituent parts. So we have our first separation there with the comma. And we begin with a demonstrative pronoun followed by a nominative noun, nominative definite article, nominative noun. So these are all in the nominative case, telling us that we're looking at our subject, correct? And so hoi hamartoloi, the sinners, plural, nominative plural masculine. And the demonstrative pronoun, ekenoi, the far demonstrative pronoun, but it's plural, so it's not that, but those, right? Those sinners. Those sinners. This is my subject. Epistrepson. So this epsilon prefix should tell me right away, wait a minute, what am I looking at? Now, if I look at my vocabulary on page 71 from lesson 13, I know this is from the verb epistrepho. So in this case, what's notable is this actually epsilon here is not an epsilon prefix. It's just built into the verb. But notice the shift between epistrepho and epistrepsan. So I have the sigma plus the phi has become psi with our old friend amalgamation. So those sinners, epistrepsan, this is a third person plural aorist active indicative from epistrepho. I forgot the tau. Should be a tau in there. Epistrepho has become epistrepsan. Those sinners turned, and I'm saying turned because it's past tense and it's aorist, it's simple past, right? We're just getting a snapshot. Turned pros ton kurion to the kurion Lord. Pros to toward with. That preposition is always going to take the accusative, and lo and behold, ton kurion is the accusative. So this part of the sentence, ekenoi hoi hamartoloi epistrepson pros ton kurion, translates, those sinners turn to the Lord. Now we have this kai nun hetoi madze en uranois tapan autois. Now this is an interesting one. We might like to see some more definite articles here, but we don't have them, so we got to figure out what's going on. So, and now hetoi madze, this is from our verb hetoi madzo, rough breathing here. Hetoi madzo, I prepare. And notice we don't see any epsilon prefix change. Now, if we were going to see this with an epsilon prefix, it would be lengthened to hetoi maso. So you'd see this lengthening happening, but it doesn't happen here. This is not an aorist. This is a simple present active indicative, that a ending, third person singular, present active indicative. He prepares, and presumably the subject of this verb is from the previous clause. Perhaps it's the Lord. And now he prepares. I'm not going to fill in another subject because I don't have another nominative in this sentence. En uranois tapon autois. Now, if we're just translating left to right, we're going to say he prepares in heavens, place them. But that doesn't work, and it doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't pay attention to the Greek grammar. So looking at my verb, I can see, all right, I don't have a nominative, so I don't have another subject that's the noun or a definite article that's telling me this is my subject of my verb. So I'm going to be looking for my direct object. Where's my accusative? And I have this prepositional phrase, en uranois, tapon, and then another dative, autois. This topon here is in the accusative singular masculine from topos, place. So that's my direct object. How do I know it's my direct object? Because of the case, not because of the word order. So he prepares a place en uranois, in heavens. Why heavens? Because this uranois is a dative plural. Autois, for them. Remember, the dative could be in, with, by, for. And since I already have the location, it's in heavens. It's not in them that he's preparing the place. It's for them, right? So this is where we look at the context and go, okay, what makes sense? So if I'm looking at this whole sentence altogether, I'm going to translate it. Those sinners turned to the Lord, and now he prepares a place in heaven for them. Let's look at another example. Sentence number 6. Ego ekradzan en te hamartiamu, aute de epese me por uesthai, en te hado tes dekaiosounes. So, ego ekradzan en te hamartiamu. I'm going to start there by breaking the sentence up into its parts, as I am wont to do. So I'm going to separate it. Now notice I have this verb kradzo. I cry, I shout, I call out. So I see this epsilon prefix, and that's going to be a blinking light from my verb kradzo, that I am looking at either an imperfect or an aorist. Those are my two options. When I see that epsilon prefix on my kradzo verb, I know I'm looking at an imperfect or an aorist. Now, if I see an aorist, after I see that epsilon prefix, I'm going to be looking for the sigma. But I don't see a sigma here, and I see on, and that is the normal endings of the imperfect. On, s, a, amen, edi, on. So I was crying out because it's imperfect. Was because it's past, and crying out as that ongoing activity because I'm seeing the imperfective aspect, the movie clip. I was crying out. Te or en te hamartiamu, in the sin of me or in my sin. But aute, this is a third person singular feminine pronoun. She, but, and this but is from the de, the postpositive preposition, or not preposition, the postpositive conjunction linking these two sentences. I was crying out in my sin, these two clauses rather. But she, epese me, she, this is from our verb peitho, I persuade. And again, look, I've got this epsilon prefix. So that's telling me, okay, epsilon prefix, I'm looking at either an imperfect or an aorist, just like what we saw with ekradzan. But in this case, I have that sigma, that blinking sigma light. So I see the epsilon prefix, which tells me imperfect, or it tells me aorist. And I see the second blinking light, which is the sigma, telling me I'm looking at an aorist. So, but she, simple past snapshot, persuaded, from peitho, she persuaded me. Por you esthai, from our verb por you omai. And so this por you esthai is actually a middle passive infinitive, but por you omai is deponent, our old friend deponent. That is middle passive in form, but active in meaning. So por you esthai is to go, to come, to go, en te hado, in the hado, way, road, path, tes dekaiosounes, of, genitive singular, righteousness, in the way, path, however you want to translate it, of righteousness. So I was crying out in my sin, but she persuaded me to go in the path the way of righteousness. One more example on the aorist tense to see some of these in the wild comes in sentence number 10. Hoi mathetai uk edunata, eke therapusai ta tekna hati uk epistusan hoi akloi. So, hoi mathetai uk edunata, eke therapusai ta tekna. I'm going to separate the hati clause here. We'll come back to that in a minute. This first part, I have my nominative plural, masculine, the disciples. I have my verb here from the verb dunamai, which is a kind of an odd deponent because it's from dunamai, I can, I am able. And so with the epsilon prefix, that's telling me, oh, blinking red light. Am I looking at an imperfect, or am I looking at an aorist, right? So we'll come back to that. Eke, that's one of the new words in chapter 13. There, as in the location. Therapusai, from our verb therapuo, where we get the word therapy, I heal. Ta tekna, the children, a neuter plural, either nominative or accusative. Now, because I already have a nominative, I'm probably going to opt for the accusative. So I'm looking at this first clause. So, hoi mathetai, the disciples. My verb here is negated by uk. And a dunata from dunamai, we see that epsilon prefix, which tells me I'm either looking at an aorist or an imperfect. Now, in this case, I don't see a sigma, and so I'm not looking at a aorist. I'm looking at an imperfect. The disciples were not able, and I'm saying not because of the negation. Were not able. Eke, there, therapusai, to heal. Therapusai, by the way, therapuo, that psi ending equals the aorist active infinitive. We're not able to heal there. Now, actually, we're going to move there to the very end of this clause. We're not able to heal who? Ta tekna, the children. Children, not child, because we're talking about the plural. Children there. So it's talking about the disciples were not able to heal the children there. So we're talking about a specific location where they could not heal. So at that location, they were not able to heal. Why? Hati, because uk epistusan hoi akloi. Now again, we don't just go left to right. We have to think about what function do these words serve in the sentence. So hoi akloi is our nominative plural masculine noun from aklos, crowd, because the crowds, plural, the crowds, uk epistusan, epsilon prefix tells me from the verb pistuo, I believe. That epsilon prefix tells me I'm looking at either an aorist or an imperfect. Now notice the san ending is the imperfect, or not the imperfect, it's the aorist. So third person plural aorist active indicative, because the crowds did not believe, or believed not, because you want to get that simple snapshot. Believed not. But you want to get that as a simple past snapshot, past tense, but the crowds believed not. So why were the disciples not able to heal the children there? Because the crowds did not believe. And again, were not, because we're in the aorist tense. We're in that simple snapshot action. We're not talking about that ongoing sort of movie clip of unbelief. We're just, for some reason, at some point, in an undefined way, they did not believe.